to a respectable estate in Suffolk, an inheritance from his maternal grandfather, old Squire Carew of Fendyke Hall, Millfield. Allen, an only son, was not by any means ill provided for, when his maternal uncle, Admiral the Honourable George Darnley, took it into his head to leave him his Wiltshire property. But this bequest raised him at once to independence, and altogether dispensed with any further care about that gentlemanlike profession, the bar, which had so far repaid Mr. Carew's collegiate studies, labours, outlays, and solicitude by fees amounting in all to £7 7s, which sum represented the gross earnings of 3 years. So, riding along the rustic high road in the clear morning air, under a sky of brightest sapphire, just gently flecked with ragged cloudlets of fleecy white, Allen Carew told himself that it was a blessed escape to have done with chambers, and reading law, and waiting for briefs, and that it was a good thing to be a country gentleman, to have his own house and his own stable, not to be obliged to ride another man's horses, even though that other man were his very father, not to be told after every stiffish day across country that he had done for the gray, or that the chestnut's legs had filled as never horse's legs filled before, nor to hear any other reproachful utterances of an old and privileged stud groom, who knew the horses he rode were not his own property. Henceforth his stable would be his own kingdom, and he would reign there, absolute and unquestioned. He could choose his own horses, and they should be good ones. He naturally shared the common creed of sons, and looked upon all animals of his father's buying as screws and duffers. His own stables would be something altogether different from the drowsy old stables at home, where horses were kept and cherished because they were familiar friends, rather than with a view to locomotion. His stud and his stable should be as different as if horses and grooms had been bred upon another planet. He loved field sports. He felt that it was in him to make a model squire, albeit 2000 a year was not a large revenue in these days of elegant living, and continental holidays, and eclectic tastes. He felt that among his numerous nephews, old Admiral Darnley had made a wise selection in choosing him, Allen Carew, to inherit his Wiltshire estate. He meant to be prudent and economical. He had spent the previous afternoon in a leisurely inspection of Beechhurst. He had gone over house and stables, and had found all things so well planned, and in such perfect order, that he was assailed by none of those temptations to pull down and to build, to alter and to improve, which often inaugurate ruin in the very dawn of possession. He thought he might build 2 or 3 loose boxes on one side of the spacious stable yard. There were 2 packs within easy reach of Matcham, to say nothing of packs accessible by rail, and he would naturally want more hunters than had sufficed for the old sailor, who had jogged out on his clever cob 2 or 3 times a week, and had gone home early after artful riding and wading about the lanes, or to leeward of the great bare hills, and in snug corners, where a profound knowledge of the country enabled him to make sure of the hounds. Allen's hunting stable would be on a very different footing, and although Beechhurst provided ample accommodations for a stud of 8, Allen told himself that one of his first duties would be to build loose boxes. "I shall often have to put up a couple of horses for a friend," he thought. The morning was lovely, more like April than March. The bay trotted along complacently, neither lazy nor feverishly active, but with an air of knowing what he had to do for his day's wage, and meaning honestly to do it. Allen was glad that his road took him past Beechhurst. Possession had still all the charm of novelty. His heart thrilled with pride as he slackened his pace to gaze fondly at the pretty white house, low and long, with a veranda running all along the southern front, admirably placed upon a gentle elevation, against the swelling shoulder of a broad down facing southwest, and looking over garden and shrubbery, and across a stretch of common that lay sloping between Beechhurst and the high road, and gave a dignified aloofness to the situation. Seclusion without dullness, a house in grounds remote, but not buried or hidden. "Nothing manorial about it," mused Allen, "but it certainly looks a gentleman's."